Welcome to Her Love of Sports with your host, Katie Hamilton.
Welcome to Her Love of Sports, where we are highlighting professional women in the sports industry. I am so excited for this episode, and I say it every episode. For this one specifically, one of my favorite sports ever is beach volleyball, watching it in the Olympics. And we have one of the most amazing Canadian beach volleyball players ever to be joining us today on the episode. We have Melissa Humana-Paredes. Melissa, welcome to Her Love of Sports. Thanks so much for joining us.
Wow, what an intro. Thanks so much for having me here.
Amazing. I'm so excited to have you. Like I said, I reached out to you a while ago, maybe even a year ago, and we were planning to do it. So I'm so glad that we're finally doing it. And yeah, just jumping in, hearing your whole career, your story, and how you got to where you are today.
Oh gosh, right from the beginning?
Yeah, let's start. So I know you're from Ontario. Is it Toronto you're from specifically?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Toronto, Ontario. I'm a first-generation Canadian, so my parents are Chilean immigrants. And I mean, I think my journey to sports, especially beach volleyball, started through them. I owe everything to them, really.
Yeah, I was reading too. So your dad was a beach volleyball coach, right? At York University and then further on?
Yeah, and his kind of entrance into the sport started much earlier. It started back in Chile when he was, I would say, probably in high school or something. He actually started playing basketball. He was quite tall, one of the tallest in his community at the time. And if you know much about Chileans, they're not very tall. So when my dad grew and got his growth spurt, everyone wanted him. Basketball wanted him, volleyball wanted him. And eventually he did move into the volleyball scene. He left basketball and started playing volleyball, even though he was much better at basketball. But he actually said the people were nicer in volleyball. So he was kind of gravitating towards that energy a little bit, which was great. And I'm grateful for that. And then he started playing for the national team in Chile, indoor volleyball specifically, and represented Chile for many, many years. And eventually he came over to Canada. And when he came here, he kind of had a bunch of different little jobs around, with newspapers and whatnot, and selling hot dogs at the vending store on the corner. And eventually he got into what he knew best, and that was volleyball. And that was at York University. And he started coaching and going back to school there and worked his way up and went to the Olympics as the volleyball coach with his team, Marquise and John Child. And they won a bronze medal at the 1996 Atlanta Olympics. And I was 4 at the time.
Wow.
And yeah, that's kind of how my childhood was just watching him travel the world, committed to his Olympic dream. And that definitely inspired mine.
Wow, I love that story so much. To see you hear just everyone's different stories of how they come, but I haven't heard too many like that where it's like the parent and it's kind of passed down to their kids, which is so amazing. So how old were you when you started playing? So you were around the sport, you went to the Olympics to watch out for. So when did you start playing?
Yeah. So I always had a ball in my hands when I was young, when I was toddlers and diapers. I'd be at beaches and just kind of like, you'd see the little kid trying to bump the ball at a young age. I don't count that as playing, but I would say I started competing competitively when I was about 10 or 11 years old. I would do camps and stuff at summer camps and overnight camps. One specifically, Madawaska, I would go to every single year when I was younger because my dad was a coach there. And then eventually when I got old enough, I was a camper and I learned all about volleyball there as well. And so I played in my first OVA tournament, which is the Ontario Volleyball Association. And that was when I was about 11. And that was kind of my first kind of competitive itch into the sport. And it went very quickly after that. I started competing, playing provincials and nationals and quite successfully at that age. And then I actually represented Canada for the first time when I was 15. So not too long after. And it was at the Under-19 World Championships in Turkey. It was in Turkey. It was the coolest experience. Yeah, it was amazing. We finished dead last though. So we had a lot to learn after that. Yeah, exactly.
It's a great experience, right?
Totally. No, we learned so much from what was possible in the sport and what I needed to do to get there.
Wow, that's fantastic. And did you mostly play beach volleyball, or when you were younger, did you kind of play court volleyball, or like when you have more players on the team, right? Because for those who aren't listening, it's 6 on a court, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then 2 when it's beach volleyball. So what was that? Did you play court as well, or?
It's interesting. I actually was kind of the anomaly, I guess. I was one of the few that started with beach volleyball. Most kids in Canada specifically, and in the sport in general, start with indoor volleyball. And they kind of play beach volleyball on the side to kind of keep up their skills and to do something in the summer when the indoor season's done. But because of kind of my upbringing, I started with beach volleyball. And I got into indoor volleyball. I played a little bit in high school. I started playing when I was, I think, in grade 9 or grade 10. And I played for a couple years. And then in my grade 12th year, I actually decided to leave my club team at the time and do beach volleyball full time. There wasn't a structure in place, actually. There was no system. There wasn't like a set national team where we had this facility and proper coaches. So I kind of would go, we kind of like made it up as we went along. And there were some provincial team coaches at the time who were helping me. And my dad, of course, who was my first coach, he was also there and helping me. And I would go some days all by myself after school to Beach Blast, which is a warehouse facility in Toronto, which no longer exists, unfortunately, but that's kind of where we went to go train. And it was really hard and it was really lonely. Beach volleyball is just 2 people. And I was, on a team of 6, 12 actually. And I kind of missed that team aspect, and I didn't realize how hard it was going to be. Especially when you're in grade 12, it's your last year of high school, and you're not going to hang out with your friends after school. You're going to train by yourself in this old warehouse, and it kind of really took a lot from me to like really decide and to like motivate myself to go every day after long days, and my weekends were busy, et cetera. I was competing and stuff. So it was lonely. And heading into university, I was getting recruited to some universities to play indoor volleyball. Even though that year I wasn't playing for a club team, I decided that I wanted to go back and play indoor volleyball for university, because I missed that kind of camaraderie, that team aspect and connections and just making friends and having teammates and being a part of a team and teamwork. And so I wanted to get back on a team. And so I went to York University, where my brother was actually playing as well. He was a few years older than me. And my dad was also there. He's a professor and a coach there. So it was a big family affair.
Love it.
And it was honestly the best decision. I don't regret either decisions. I don't regret committing to beach full time in my grade 12 year, and I don't regret going back to indoor volleyball in university. And I played there for 4 years, and they were the best years of my life. I had the best time. I'm so glad I did it. And yeah, it was just kind of a whirlwind. My career has just been up and down all over the place.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that too, because like I played volleyball for a few years, but it was just like I didn't do club because it was at the same time as soccer season. So I was like, I'm just full pack with soccer. I can't do that. So I did school, and I like soccer was my sport, but I'm not lying when I say that volleyball, I actually loved it a little bit more. I'm not saying I was any good out of it. It was just the sport itself. And like you said, like that, the team in volleyball, it just hit different. Like hit different than soccer team, than ball team, basketball team. It just hit different for some reason. I don't know why. It's just like you felt like a little bit of a family, and it was high school. So it's like, how does it feel like that?
You're so accurate.
It was wild.
Yeah, it's so true. I agree. I think that the girls that I played with all 4 years, and we would get different girls, some leaving, some coming in every year. And it was amazing. Those are like my sisters. There really is like a family feel. And I think my dad was onto something early days when he, left basketball to go pursue volleyball, just because the people were nicer, even though he was better at basketball than he was at volleyball. I think there's something about the environment or about the camaraderie or just the way that the game flows and how you rely on each other so much. I think there's something really special there.
Yeah, I agree. It is very special. Yeah. And also what's so interesting is because I didn't know too much. Like I said, it was high school, and I knew some of the girls did club, but it wasn't really something that you heard too much about, at least like me growing up in Victoria. Okay. But I knew a few of my girls on my team at school, they would play club. But to go to playing beach volleyball, like I obviously don't know, but it doesn't seem like there was that many opportunities, or it wasn't that kind of known. So hearing your story of like like, how does someone go to beach volleyball and like, how do you move up? Because it's just such a fascinating sport and everybody loves it. People love to play it for fun and for recreation. And then to see yourself competing at it, like at the top level, is truly inspiring and amazing.
I appreciate that.
But yeah, of course. And do you mind, how tall are you? So there's two kind of positions, right? So in beach, you have your, so you were partnered with Sarah Pavin for quite a while, who's quite tall. So how tall are you, if you don't mind me asking?
So I'm actually 5'9". So I'm definitely on the shorter end of the defenders, at least on tour. And just in general, the game is definitely growing. All the blockers are definitely mostly over 6'2", I would say, in general. So I am on the smaller end for sure.
Okay. I know it's so hard to tell. I was like, how tall is she? I'm 5'10". So we're like very like right beside each other.
Yeah. And I think people are always really surprised when they see me in person. Sometimes I get, oh, you're a lot taller than I thought, because I'm always by tall people. So I just look so small. But when I'm in, I guess, like everyday life, I am taller than most people or taller than the average. So I think people forget that. But it's in our sport, I'm definitely short.
Sure. And I think maybe because like watching it, like you don't, at least like from a spectator and a fan, like you don't notice like the difference between the height of the net, that it's like, oh, it's actually they're right there. So it's kind of like, okay, that person, like the tall person is probably like my height, 5'10", but it's like, no. They're like 6'2", 6'3".
No, exactly. Yeah. So my ex-partner, Sarah, was actually 6'5", and there are a few girls on tour who are about 6'5". And my new partner, Brandy, she's actually not quite 6 feet yet, but she jumps so high and has just the longest arms ever. So she's up there with those 6'5" girls for sure. I think at the end of the day, and this is something that I really resonate with, it's not really about your height, because I think it can be quite intimidating, especially for young girls coming up in the sport, who kind of don't see themselves in the sport because they might not be as tall, or they don't see themselves growing as much. There is room for all different shapes and sizes in our sport. And I think I definitely had to really work hard to increase my vertical and to kind of increase those things that would give me that edge on the court. I think being my size makes me quick and agile in the backcourt, and that's why I'm good at my sport, and that's why I'm good at my position. And I think, I think some of the fiercest girls on tour I know, who have the biggest heart and passion and drive, are smaller. And whether or not it's because they have to prove themselves, or they have to compete against these very tall women, I think it pushes you to just dig a little deeper. And so I feel very proud of that. I think when I was younger, it used to bother me that I would get called short all the time, or I'd be the smaller one and I'd get picked on for it. But I think I've proved myself, and I worked really hard to get to where I am. And I think there's always room for everybody in this sport, as long as you work for it and you love it.
That's perfect. That's the perfect advice for anybody listening. Like, doesn't matter your size. What matters is your heart and your dedication and just grinding it and hustling, right? And putting in that extra effort.
Yeah.
So,
totally.
So let's talk about that. So I noticed that you have a new partner now, Brandy Wilkerson. So tell me, I think that there's a little bit of a story, right? You guys played at York. What's kind of the story behind that?
Oh gosh, we go way back. So she was actually in my rookie year. We went to York University at the same time. So I've known her for almost a decade, if not more. I'm not doing the math on that because it's going to make me feel old. But we go way back, and we played on the same team together for 4 years. She was actually a walk-on, which is crazy. She just walked onto our court. I think she had plans to go play rugby, but she came to the tryouts and was just so athletic and so talented and gifted and could jump so high. And again, just had like crazy long arms. And so our coach was like, yeah, we need her on our team. And initially she'd never played, or really she hadn't like competitively played that much. And so she was a little raw, but she was a very fast learner. And she, within a couple of years, she was like, CIS at the time is what it was called, CIS first team all-stars. And, she was like the best point scorer in the league. And she just was amazing. And so I think we really complemented each other back then because we were both starting on the court at the same time. And we had different styles of playing, but even then we just got along very well. And she eventually started playing beach volleyball a little bit, started dabbling again, kind of to keep up with her skills, I think. And I eventually she came onto the national team, tried out, and she made it on the beach volleyball national team, which was awesome. And then, fast forward a few years, I had the opportunity to go to the Rio Olympics as an alternate. And my partner at the time couldn't go. And so they asked Brandy to come with me. And it was probably one of the best things for both of us individually and together. We got to experience the Olympic Games without the pressures of competing. And so we were in Rio and we were there kind of training our Canadian teams who had qualified, and also seeing the behind the scenes of how an Olympic Games works, and being able to kind of experience and feel the energy and the vibes and just the magic of the Olympic Games, and also see like how it all functions behind the scenes, and still train. And we got into the venue, we would watch the games, and you would just see everything. It was an incredible experience. And I think we got closer through that experience as well. And I think it really kind of solidified our path to wanting to get there and be competing ourselves one day. And I think, I always had it in me, or at least in the back of my mind, that we would play together at one point. We didn't know when, but I think we knew that we would play together. I think we both had our individual journeys we needed to go through. We had a lot of growth we needed to do, both as players and as people. And so I think we needed to kind of explore that for a while before really thinking about playing together. And so that's kind of what we had done. And I of course, I partnered with Sarah for the last 5 years, and, what we had accomplished was incredible. And I never thought that it would come together so quickly, accomplishing all those things that we did on tour at the highest stage and the highest level. And, accomplishing a lot of goals along the way. And I think that helped me grow and become the person and player, and really challenged me and pushed me in a lot of difficult ways. And I'm just so grateful for those years together. And I know Brandy had a similar experience with her partner, and just seeing her also on tour, also competitors, teammates, but also competitors, seeing her growth as well was so inspiring. And, she rose to the top very, very quickly, and Canada very quickly became a threat internationally, which is incredible for a winter sport country to thrive in a summer sport. And so I think, we've accomplished a lot individually, and we've, made a lot of gains. So I think in our path to Paris, I think it made a lot of sense for us. We're in, in our place. We're 30 years old, both of us. We're in our place individually and athletically, where I think we're reaching our peak together. And I think it just felt really right to partner for that.
I love that. And so when you partner with someone, is it like your coaches or Canada Volleyball that's partnering you, or is it kind of also your decision or get some input in it?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely depends on the federation. I think every federation has their own system. At least for Volleyball Canada, they are fairly hands-off. They don't push anything on you. And when you're in the system, you know kind of who's in the system and who's available. Canada is a smaller country in terms of numbers, especially in the volleyball community. So there's not like a lot of options. So you kind of know who your options are. And Brandy was always it. And so it was kind of up to us to make those decisions, which I think is really important that Volleyball Canada lets that be in the hands of the players, because it's not just do we fit on court, but it's do our personalities fit? And, how are we going to handle conflicts, and how do we handle, like communication and all that kind of stuff. And so it's not just numbers. It's not just, oh, she's tall, she's small, she's fast, she hits, and they complement each other well because their skills complement each other well. It's like, do they get along as well? So I think there's a lot more to picking a partner, and there's more to the science of creating a good team than just skills.
Right, exactly. And it is a team sport, but it's not 6 or 11 or 20 people on a team. It's just 2. So that connection, like you said, like both mentally and personality and skills. And do you spend a lot of time, like when you're on your tours or if you're at Olympics or big championships, do you spend a lot of time together too? So like, is that kind of important, that just not on the court, but off the court, like training, downtime, to kind of be able to have that friendship? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think, so just preference, we probably spend like 24/7 together. We probably don't spend our sleep hours together, but the rest of the day we're together, whether we're commuting to practices, whether we're at practice, whether we're having lunch, refueling, recovering, getting treatment, going to the gym together. We do everything together, whether we're traveling to tournaments together. We might not be sitting right next to each other on the plane, but we're on those 12-hour flights together. We stay in the same hotel rooms. We do everything together. So it's one, important that you do get along. And again, it depends on who you are and what your theory is, but you don't have to be best friends. You know, some people do take it as a business and they need that kind of space. I think it's just a lot more enjoyable when you do get along and you like to hang out. I absolutely think boundaries are a huge thing in life, but especially in this sport. And so also knowing your boundaries and being able to communicate that and respect that, I think is super important. I think there's times like right now we have about a week and a half of a break in between competitions. So she's in Toronto right now and I'm in Victoria. And so we're taking kind of that break. I miss her already, but soon we'll come back together and we'll be together all the time. But I think when we even have like our weekends off, like we'll message each other, go for brunch, or we'll go for drinks somewhere, or we'll do something. And so, or go hang out with friends together or not. It is important that you are, I think, enjoying this journey as much as possible. And you're with someone that you enjoy it with, because you do give up a lot for it and it takes a lot from you. So it's important to be able to have someone you can lean on. Like you mentioned, beach volleyball is just two people. So as much as it is a team sport, it is also quite individual. And, I think to be able to have someone that supports you and that's going through the same journey and the same challenges as you, it means a lot to be able to be on similar pages. And there's also, there's a huge big team behind the scenes, with our coaches and our sports psychs and our nutritionists and physiotherapists and just everything. They're also part of the team and they help the journey as well. But I think it's important when you have that connection off court, it translates to on court.
Absolutely. And I love that. And when I was looking at like clips and videos and photos of you guys and just of playing and whatnot, you could just see and feel the energy between the two of you. It just felt so positive and friendly. And you could just tell like the vibes are good. The vibes are on, the friendship's good, the teamwork.
It's high energy.
It's really
for
great
sure.
to see. It's awesome. I love it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And so moving into training. So the most sore I've ever been was doing like a grade 12 volleyball academy camp for a week. And I kid you not, I was so sore from this grade 12 volleyball academy. Because again, it wasn't like I did it for high school and it was just for fun. And then me and my friend who was like, she was tall. She was like 6 foot. So that was tall for us, right?
Of course.
And we're like, okay, let's do it. Let's have some fun. Let's do it. And it was full with competitive volleyball players. And I was so sore. We couldn't walk on Thursday and Friday. And like through all the sports, I don't know if it was the diving, it's the different muscles, but like I couldn't even imagine what it takes to actually be like a professional and have that be your sport, just the training that goes into it. So what's it kind of like even now? What's kind of your day-to-day routine? Is it every day I'm training? Is it a couple days off? What's it like?
Yeah, great question. And I will say being on the sand is physically demanding. Just being on sand is hard for your body to do, just to like balance. It uses like all the little muscles in your feet and your core just to engage. And it's just walking on sand is just hard. So I remember if I take too much time off, like after most off seasons, I come back to the sand, I am just as sore. All that feeling that you're talking about, I feel it. Even though I've been playing this for my entire life, I still get sore if I take too much time off. So the DOMs are real. And you know what? Strangely, I kind of love that feeling. I love the feeling of being really sore where it hurts to sit, or like go upstairs and it just hurt. I love that. I crave it a little bit. So I guess right now, when we go back to training, I mean, I am kind of taking a little bit of a break off of the sand right now. So not really touching the ball much, but I am in the gym every day. So I'd probably say 4 to 5 times a week right now, plus some conditioning sessions, whether it's bike conditioning or sand sprints or something, just to keep the heart rate going. We don't want to like really take too much off of the body. We want to keep a little bit of load on it, even if we're not competing. But when we go back, we train Monday to Fridays on sand. So we have about 2-hour sessions. Okay. It looks like I just checked our schedule. Actually, our coach has also inserted some double days. So we'll have, a competitive session in the morning from, let's say, 9 to 11. And then in the afternoon, maybe around 2 or 3, we'll do an individual. So Brandy and I will go and we'll work on, maybe it's just my defensive skills or just her defensive skills. And so we'll have an hour with the coach one-on-one, just working on individual skills. So on those days, we're not lifting. On the days where we don't have an individual, we'll have a session in the gym, and we'll be doing, Olympic lifting and whatnot in the gym. And that will be, again, about 4 times a week. And then in whatever time off we have, Sundays are always off. Usually on Saturday, we'll have a lift, and then we'll kind of insert physiotherapy and kind of active recovery in that time off, whether it's, just going for a walk or going for a swim or doing kind of your rehab exercises, which are very important. Especially as I get older, I notice I need to keep on those exercises.
Yeah. Big start, exclamation mark. Very important for pre and post rehab.
I know. I never took it. Yeah. And I never took it seriously as a young athlete. And so as I'm 30 now, I'm like, okay, I need to really take care of my body, because one of the beautiful things about our sport is that you do have longevity in it. It is easier on the joints to be in the sand. And so taking care of the body is probably the number one thing, and the mind, but taking care of the body is super important if you want to last in this sport for a long time. So I'm learning that.
To even think like that you're participating in that sport, and like what you're talking about is how you worked hard at the beginning, you worked hard in your vertical and whatnot. And it's like, how do you get air off of jumping off sand? Because it's not like it's just a little bit of sand. Like I watched the games, there's a lot of sand.
We do a lot of plyometrics in the gym, but you're right, it doesn't always translate, because when you go into the sand, and it also depends on the sand quality, you're kind of sinking. So you got to work double time to be able to get that air. And I will say, it does look a lot easier than doing it. When I watch other people play, I'm like, oh, it looks so easy and so graceful. When I'm doing it, I'm like, oh, this requires every muscle in my body to be able to execute. But I would say, like in the gym, we kind of work, it's a whole body sport. I would say predominantly for myself, I am lower body dominant. So it's a lot of plyometrics. So a lot of jumping and squatting and deadlifting to kind of really build up the posterior chain, so like your lats and your glutes, and then also your quads to kind of complement. But I've had chronic and lingering shoulder pain for as long as I can remember, since I was like 15 years old. So upper body is also extremely important. We are an overhead sport as well. So there's a lot of overuse that happens with my shoulder. And so we do a lot of upper body and kind of a lot of like those little muscles in the shoulder. We kind of really do a lot of work there with TheraBands and a lot of weights and kind of just overhead movements, whether it's presses and whatnot. And at the end of the day, everything has to happen through your core. So there's also a lot of core. So we're really doing everything. And I will say, it's a full,
literally head to toe. You're working out everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually did break my ankle many years ago in university. And so because we don't wear shoes, obviously, in beach volleyball or on the sand, I had to do a lot of work to kind of strengthen my ankles. And so I do if you can imagine, I would do toe crunches with a towel to try and strengthen my feet so that I could walk in the sand. And so it's literally from toe to head, we're doing exercises for every possible muscle in the body.
Well, yeah. And I could only think even wrist, you need your wrist to be nice and good, and your fingers, fingertips, everything.
Absolutely. Yes.
Neck, I don't know, just everything.
100%.
So you have so many. I was reading it all. I've been following you, and just so many honors and achievements that you've had, just from awards. I think it was the most outstanding female beach volleyball team. You got best defensive player, best setter, best rookie, all of these. Those are just to name some of them, which is so amazing. And then I believe, so is it in 2019, you made history as Canada's first ever world champions in volleyball, and the victory secured your spot for the Tokyo Olympics, right? So talk to me. We went over Rio, how you got to go with Brandy, and you got to experience it all, take it all in, but not as a player, more as an observer. So what was it like making the Olympics now going as an athlete? Like as playing in it. I mean, you went out as an athlete before, I'll re-say that, going in, like competing in it.
Yeah, no, and that is a huge distinction as well. So, I mean, going back to the World Championships in 2019 and just earning that berth was significant for so many reasons. And I remember actually in the moment, I totally forgot that when we won, it meant that we earned our berth and earned our ticket to the Olympic Games. And I didn't know until maybe about 20 minutes later when we were in the media mix zone where they're like, "Oh, how does it feel to know that you've qualified for the Olympics?" And I remember I looked at my partner and was like, "Oh my God, we qualified!" And it was just an amazing feeling, just a rush of emotions, because truthfully, we're in it now, but the qualification for the Olympic Games for our sport is ruthless. It is hard work. It's dog eat dog. You can't take a second of letting yourself off the gas at all. You kind of have to be on the whole time. It's a lengthy process. So we started January 1. It goes up until about June of next year. So it's a year and a half of qualifying and really fighting and grinding your way and trying to get all the Olympic qualification points you can get and get all these results. So earning that berth through the World Championship, earning the title of being a world champion for life is something you dream of as an athlete. And so I still to this day can't really explain how much it means. But then also earning the Olympic qualification, it was just like pure elation and also a little bit of relief off of your shoulders, because then we were able to kind of really enjoy the rest of the Olympic qualification and kind of change our mindset to be medal threats for Tokyo, for the Olympics, rather than, let's try and qualify. It's like, no, we've qualified now. So let's change our mindset and let's start getting ready to like execute and compete at the Olympic Games. And then of course, the world shut down shortly after that. And so there was even doubt and grieving of, are the Olympics even going to happen? And then they got postponed. And so there was a huge period, probably about 9 months, where there was so much uncertainty, and our lives, everyone's lives looked so different. And our lives as athletes also looked super different because we weren't able to go train in our normal training facilities. So I was training for the Olympics kind of out of my living room with some weights that we borrowed from the gym, and just trying to stay as fit as possible. I hadn't touched a ball in a very long time, or, when it was safe, we would try and go out to like Willows Beach here in Victoria, because I was quarantining actually here in Victoria. Or we would go somewhere to a field and just try and mess around with the ball a little bit just to like not lose my touch. But yeah, that was a really crazy time. It feels like like so long ago, another lifetime.
I know.
And there was a lot of grieving and work that needed to be done throughout that process with our sports psychs as well, to try and just get through it. And as a whole world, we all just needed to get through that. So when it was, when we did find out that we were going to be able to play the Olympic Games, we knew we're going to look a lot different than how I envisioned when I was 4 years old, or how I experienced in Rio 4 years prior. We knew that this Games would not be the same. Our family weren't going to be able to come, which was a big bummer. And, we weren't really going to be able to experience the whole Olympic Games or the spectacle of the Games, and like walk in the ceremony, or, go watch and cheer on your other Canadian athletes. My boyfriend actually, who plays rugby, who was playing rugby, he had qualified for the Olympics as well. And so he was in Tokyo at the same time, and I couldn't go watch him play. And it was our first Olympic Games together. No, we couldn't watch each other. And it was also wild. We couldn't even really spend a lot of time together. We tried to have meals together, but there's like plexiglass in between. You can't be next to people. So it was a completely different experience. Incredibly grateful for the Japanese Olympic Organizing Committee and all the volunteers for being able to put it on and safely, and that we were still able to compete. But, it was a really bittersweet moment when, I ran onto the court for my very first Olympic game, and it was an empty stadium. And, you kind of prepare yourself to walk on and just like see just the crowd roar, or just see flags in the stands and just kind of feel the energy, because especially in beach volleyball, it's a very intimate sport and it's very accessible. So the crowd's close to the court. And so not having that was very, very different. An experience that I'll never forget, of course. but it was different. And I would say, you know, the way that the everyone handled it was really great. And the way that the games went on were incredible, that given the circumstances. But it was bittersweet. You know, when we did unfortunately lose out early, we did finish 5th. We lost in the quarterfinals, which was a huge disappointment because we had hopes to be on top of the podium. And it wasn't unrealistic for us to envision ourselves there. So it was a disappointing result. It was really hard to come to terms with that. It was, I don't even know if I still have, to be honest. I don't know if it's something that maybe when you retire, you kind of find that perspective. I think it was really hard to deal with that kind of disappointment and then move on, because before you know it, we were starting Olympic qualification for Paris within a year. We kind of lost that Olympic qualification, that extra Olympic year that you normally get in a 4-year quad because of COVID. So you kind of had to move on pretty quickly and just kind of get ready for the next season, which was really wild. And that's kind of where we are. There was a lot of changeover, you know, after a lot of Olympics, teams tend to kind of split and change partners and kind of start a new journey. And that's what we're on now. And it feels really exciting. And it feels like Paris is around the corner. It's next year. And I'm really excited because I think this will be the Olympics that I did dream of when I was 4 years old. And it's kind of slowly coming to fruition. I definitely don't want to speak too early. We're still very much in early days of Olympic qualification and we're still trying to qualify. But I think, you know, if all goes to plan, we'll be there. And I'm really excited for being able to just represent Canada on the stage every day. I mean, is incredible, but especially on that grand stage is always an honor and something that I don't take lightly.
It's amazing. And yeah, just to hear the story, it must have even like mentally just been such a challenge and area to kind of navigate, just with, like you said, with COVID and then training at home and then going to the Tokyo Olympics and not having fans there and whatnot. We've had a few Olympians too who had a very similar experience on the show, just with not having their family there, or training was a little bit different. And then, like you said, too, like it lost that year. So now you have kind of 3 years-ish before the next Olympics, which is next year, which is so wild to think. Because I feel like, at least for a fan, like I feel like those Olympics are still like so fresh for me. Like it just happened, but I'm like excited. I'm like, yes, they're coming back. But so when will you know? So do you have the rest of the year, or do you have a few months? When do you know once you kind of qualify? Or when are the qualifying rounds for you?
Yeah, so basically for us, we're using this whole year, so all of 2023 from January 1st to December 31st as a way to set us up to qualify next year. So at least for beach volleyball, we need to get a minimum of 12 FIVB events in. And then within those 12 events, we need to be within the top 16 of the world to get an automatic berth. And so that's kind of how we're structuring ourselves right now and what our goal is for this year. The other way to do it is how I did it last time, which is to qualify by winning the World Championships, which is this year in Mexico in October. So we're also trying to plan for that as well. So, we will know kind of, you get a good idea probably by early next year of who's in the mix and who's kind of qualified. But the closer it gets to June, which is the deadline of 2024, you'll start to see like there'll be some teams like right on the cusp of qualifying with just a couple points difference, and any game or any tournament will make a difference between if a team goes or if a team doesn't go. So we don't want to be in that position. We want to have a clear distinction, and that's kind of our goal. So we won't really know that until June, or we win in Mexico in October, and then we'll know. So that's kind of the goal.
Fingers crossed for you.
Yeah.
I'll be cheering you on.
Thank you so much.
No, my family, I like to watch all the sports, of course, but for some reason, just beach volleyball. And then knowing that there's like the amazing Canadian team, like we're like, okay, women's beach volleyball is on now. Like, just take time off work. Don't plan anything.
Oh, I really appreciate that.
You got lots of fans.
Yay! Oh, I love that. And I don't know if you've seen where the venue is for beach volleyball in Paris is. I almost want to
No, I
wait
haven't.
till you Google it or something to see your reaction, but it is probably one of the best venues that beach volleyball has ever been, or
Really?
like for any sport. But it'll be right underneath the Eiffel Tower. So we'll
Oh,
have,
wow.
yeah, so the backdrop is just stunning.
Love it. That would be so magical.
It
Just Paris in general, the Olympics, like
exactly.
the first one for summer since Tokyo, like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, it'll be
just
great. I
wild.
think we're all very excited. And just, I mean, provided everything goes well, it'll be a seemingly normal Olympic Games again. And so you'll have, my family will be able to come, the stands will be full, we'll be able to
Yeah.
participate in the opening, closing ceremonies. We can go watch and cheer on our fellow Canadians and other sports. So I feel like that'll be the Olympic experience that I have kind of been dreaming of since I was a kid and have been working for basically my whole life. So I'm really excited
Yeah.
for that one.
Oh, that's amazing. And to do it with, regardless who your partner it is, but to do it kind of with Brandy and where you came from. And I mean, it's amazing. Like, I feel like I've met quite a few athletes from York. I don't know. York just seems to be like creating these like amazing national team
I love
athletes.
That's right.
But it's like it's from there, and then which is a fantastic, and then for the two of you to be like at the Olympics and competing together and just everything is just
Yeah.
it's so inspiring. It's so amazing. I love it so much, and to hear your story. Okay, let's do a few kind of just last questions to get to know you a bit. So beach volleyball travels all over the world, most amazing places. Can only imagine. Do you have a spot that you're like, this right now is one of my most number one spots that I enjoyed playing at and experienced?
Yes. I don't want to cop out, but I have two. I have one.
Yes, love it.
It's called Stade, Switzerland, and it's in the middle of the Swiss Alps. It's still a tourist stop, so we'll be going there later this month, I believe in July. And it's just heavenly. There aren't really any words to describe it. It's kind of a feeling, but it's beautiful. We're kind of in like a little like ski chalet town, but in the summer. And so it's just so lush and so green. And our courts are just in the middle of the Swiss mountains, and it's stunning. It's very expensive, but so worth it to go at least once in your life. And then alternatively, my other favorite spot is Porridge, Croatia. I only got to go there once. It's no longer on tour. And it was actually the very first gold medal that we won as a team for Canada. And it was on Canada Day, and our finals was at night. So it was under the lights and the stars were out, and it was just beautiful. You're right by the water. It's stunning. And Croatia is just beautiful in general. So those are probably my favorite spots.
I love it. And two spots that like I wouldn't think of personally, just not like knowing too much. Like I just assume you go everywhere, but not like a typical like a really hot place and beach and stuff. So I love those. Definitely have to Google them and
yes,
put them on the
hit
bucket
those
list
up
to go.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Did you have any athletes that you looked up to growing up?
I did, yeah. I actually, this was kind of an influence by my dad, but I did grow up admiring Muhammad Ali, and not necessarily everything he accomplished as an athlete, but kind of how outspoken he was and for what he believed in. I think he really fought for human rights at the time, and I think he really showed, one of the first people to really show that athletes were more than just athletes. And so I really admired that about him. And I think he also, in the way that he carried himself as an athlete, is admirable in that he knew that he was the best, or at least he really thought that he was the best, and he was just going to go down trying and proving it over and over again, which was really admirable. Yeah, so I'd say he's one of them. And then I have to say, actually, one of the beach volleyball players on tour that I remember I grew up watching, there are a few that are the classics who were kind of just legends in the sport. But there was this one athlete from Italy. Her name's Marta. She still plays on tour. I remember she's not that much older than me. And I remember watching her when I was younger. And she was quite young at that point playing on tour. She'd already made it to the senior tour. And I remember thinking, wow, like she is not much older than me, so it's possible. I can also get on tour. If she can do it, then I totally can do it. And she was really kind of that one push that made me think, okay, I belong there. Like just because I'm a little bit younger, maybe a little bit smaller, doesn't mean that I don't belong there. So she kind of really inspired me to do that. And so that's someone else. Probably not what you expected or what other people would expect, but I remember watching her when I was younger, and it was really inspiring.
It's amazing. And then now to be playing in the same area, maybe competing against her. But it's perfect too, because like for yourself, like you're such an inspiration and a role model for athletes everywhere. So I'm sure that there's little athletes like how you were, like looking up to you, being like, oh, this is the journey. I'm inspired by her. I want to follow her journey, all of that kind of stuff. So
I appreciate that. I hope so. I hope I'm inspiring people along the way. I think you don't really know your impact until later, or maybe even after your career. So I really just want the sport to grow, especially in Canada, and maybe even here in Victoria. We need the sport to grow.
Yes.
So yeah, that's kind of one of my goals for sure. Before I retire, I'd like to see a little bit of the game developing and growing here in Canada.
Well, it's such a great sport. And I think like Canada, you kind of have your typical ones that are, you think of Canada and what sport it is, but to have you and the accomplishments and just even like participating in the sport, I think is like, as you inspiring a lot, but it just truly is. It's amazing. And it would be, great to have it expand, because it's such a fantastic sport. And I wish it was on like TV more, like the main channels. It's just so fun to watch. It's just a great sport athletically all around. I love it. So I'm a huge fan.
Oh, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, last question. Any last final like advice or words to any young athletes interested in pursuing volleyball or beach volleyball?
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite pieces of advice to give out to any athlete, regardless of the sport, but is just to not let anyone tell you no, and to pave your own path. I think I was told no a few times in my sport. I was cut from provincial teams early days, and I think it was because I was small, and I think I really wanted to prove not just them wrong, but I wanted to prove myself right, that I could do it and I could overcome obstacles. And I think if you're really passionate about something and if you really love what you're doing, don't let anyone get in your way, and make sure to find the right people and the community around you that will push you and challenge you, but also be there to support you 100%. I think I wouldn't be able to do this. I don't think anyone would, to get through life alone. I think it's important to make sure that you surround yourself with people who love and respect you.
Perfect. Amazing. Melissa, thank you so much. I'm so excited to watch your journey all the way to the Olympics, and keep up to date with what you're doing. So thank you so much for joining us on Her Love of Sports.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This was so fun.
To catch all the latest, make sure to follow us on social at Her Love of Sports and check out herloveofsports.com.